Oh hey, didn't see you there. This? My one wheel? You want to ride it? And you don't know how? Well, don't worry. It's pretty simple. Like riding a skateboard or snowboard, the first thing you need to do is choose which foot will be facing forward. Usually this will be your dominant foot, the one you use to do things like kick a ball or take the first step on a flight of stairs. For whatever reason, skate and snowboarders have decided that putting your left foot forward is called regular, while putting your right foot forward is called goofy. When you first approach the board, it'll be leaning backwards due to the weight of the battery. This conveniently lets you put your back foot down without having to worry too much about balancing. Next, you'll lightly place your front foot down, but don't lean forward yet. Foot placement is important on a one wheel since you have to lean to turn. Starting off, many people first approach the one wheel as if it's a skateboard, meaning they try to put their feet as far apart as possible. On a skateboard, you're responsible for balancing on two separate axes. I'll call them the parallel axis, running along the same direction you'll be moving, and the perpendicular axis, which is more self-explanatory. However, the one wheel speeds up and slows down depending on how far you lean in the parallel axis, meaning that, essentially, the board is balancing on that axis for you while you're moving. This means that, counterintuitively, you'll find you're able to balance better with your feet closer together. It makes sense if you think about just standing on the ground. If you have your feet really far apart, it's harder to keep your balance forward and backward. Finally, I would advise having your feet offset slightly to each side. Using the skating lingo again, the two sides of the board are toe side and heel side. Personally, I like having my front foot pushed toward toe side and my back foot toward heel side. You could reverse this if you find it more comfortable. This just makes it so you have more leverage when making turns. It's not necessary, but it really helps. Now you're ready to start riding. This is both the easiest and hardest part. Easy because the board just does all the work for you, and hard because you have to learn to trust that. Once you get the hang of things, riding goes pretty easily. Now would be a good time to mention that the Onewheel app, which connects your phone to your board via Bluetooth, lets you adjust the acceleration curve to better fit your needs. On the Pint, which is the model I have, you're limited to 4 presets. However, on the higher end models, you're able to adjust the curve manually. The 2 presets I use are Elevated and Skyline. Elevated gives a much steeper curve that's basically required for going up hills, and Skyline is very similar to the default curve, but lets you reach max speed, which on the Pint is theoretically around 16 miles an hour. The highest I've ever hit is around 14. Here's some general tips for riding. To reduce leg fatigue, you can carve back and forth like you would on a snowboard. This also helps with perpendicular balance. If you're approaching a bump, make sure you start slowing down early and are still decelerating over the bump. If you're going too slow, the board may just get stuck, making it very hard to keep balance, and if you're accelerating, the board may become unstable and throw you off. Related to that, you need to be looking for bumps. You should be looking at the ground basically all the time. Hitting an unexpected bump is probably the most dangerous part of riding a one-wheel. Sometimes there are obstacles that are unavoidable though, and that brings us to stopping. Once you're riding, there will inevitably come a point where you want to stop and realize, oh shit. Luckily, stopping on the one-wheel Pint is very easy. If you just slow down to the point of stopping, the board will recognize that you're stopping and it will shift back to let you off. This of course doesn't work if you've changed the settings to allow riding backwards, or if you're on a higher end model of one wheel, where the ability to go backwards is the default. I also just don't really like how it feels, and it's not very efficient, so here's a faster method of stopping. When slowing down, you'll eventually hit a low enough speed where if you lean backwards to kind of slam the rear of the board onto the ground, you'll come skidding to a halt. It takes some getting used to, and knowing the right speed to initiate the stop just comes with more experience. I definitely wouldn't advise trying to stop like this right away. Finally, there's always the possibility that something happens where you feel you need to get off the board immediately. This is unfortunately where the Onewheel and really skateboards in general are at their weakest safety-wise. Should the situation occur, you'll need to decide whether it's worth it to leap forward off the board with both feet, hopefully landing in a spot where you can reduce your speed and not fall flat on the pavement. If you ride carefully in car-free areas and at reasonable speeds, you'll hopefully never have to do this, but it's worth knowing the procedure just in case. And now you basically know how to ride a Onewheel. It's definitely not for everyone, but I think it's a fun and unique way to get around, especially in car-free, walkable areas. It does take some practice, but I hope this video was helpful to get you started. Thanks for watching.